By the end of this presentation, attendees should know what it means when I say end-of-life intentions, why is it important, who does it matter to and who does it involve, when you should start thinking about it, and some of the different kinds of legal documents. So what if you were this vibrant 21-year-old, Karen Ann Quinlan, who went to a party one night in April of 1975 and collapsed from an overdose. They were able to resuscitate her and get her to breathe on her own, but she never regained consciousness and remained in a permanent vegetative state. Months passed. The only functions she had were maintained by a ventilator with tubes providing fluids and nutrition. Her body gradually wasted away. A once vital, attractive young woman had become a 60-pound, shriveled up form. There was no talk anymore of miraculous return to life. One day, a priest persuaded her parents that mortality does not require that extraordinary means be used to prolong life. So, the Quinlans asked the physicians to turn the machines off. The physicians refused. This case became a very lengthy lawsuit, and as you can see from the photos, it also made worldwide news. Her case affected the practice of medicine and law around the world. Quinlan's case, along with some very similar cases fighting for the right to die, such as Nancy Cruzan in 1989, continued to raise questions in euthanasia, legal guardianship, moral theology, bioethics, and civil rights. So after much debate and cases such as Quinlan's and Cruzan's, in 1990, the U.S. Congress passed the Patient Self-Determination Act. This law recognizes a mentally competent adult's right to refuse life support procedures. This legislation allows a person to self-govern their own end-of-life options. As most of us know, the nation's population continues to live longer. More and more people will experience years of functional and cognitive decline prior to death and may not have the capacity to state their wishes on their own. However, I brought up Karen Quinlan's case not only because it did make worldwide news and affected the practice of medicine and law around the world, but she was also only 21, which shows that this can happen to anyone at any age. Maybe not an overdose, but certainly some kind of accident. So professionals recommend that anyone 18 and older plan their end-of-life care. Physicians are required to use any means necessary to save someone from dying. But with the advancements in technology, with machines and treatments that do prolong life, it often prevents a natural death. a good death. So how do you plan your end-of-life care? You do this through advanced directives. There are several kinds and forms, but the most common are what you see on this umbrella: a living will, a power of attorney, a do not resuscitate form, and an organ donor registry. In order to implicate advanced directives, patients need to have these documents filled out, signed, and placed in their medical charts. With an advanced directive, you get to decide what kind of care you would get in any kind of scenario. But without one, and if you are not in the position to make these decisions, somebody else is going to have to make these for you. And if you don't have advanced directives, you would have to hope that it's somebody that knows you well. First, I would like to talk to you about the living will because it was the first advanced directive to receive general attention in the United States. It was actually introduced in 1968 by a nonprofit organization that was way ahead of its time in educating public and professionals about end-of-life options. At the time, it had limited effectiveness. Not that Ann Quinlan had a living will, but if she did, it may not have been any use for her parents because it was so vague that physicians were uncertain about the legal and ethical implications of withholding life-sustaining procedures. Since then, and since the Patient Self-Determination Act, it has advanced and become quite detailed. So you get to choose not only whether you want to be resuscitated or not in certain situations or on life support, but it even now gives you spiritual options and you can list the wishes at the end of your life. So what happens if you do become unconscious or mentally incapable of making decisions at the end of your life? You have someone be your medical power of attorney, also called a healthcare proxy, which allows you to designate a trusted family member or friend to make medical decisions for you in the event that you cannot. So make sure it is someone you can fully trust. This is often confused with a durable power of attorney for finances, but they are not the same thing. When it comes to advanced directives, there are so many different kinds of forms, but I wanted to touch the basics with you. And nowadays, they have what they call combined advanced directives, which will cover just about everything in one document. It's divided into sections. So you have a section for your do not resuscitate order, a section for your organ donor registration, section for your medical power of attorney. There's a section for the kind of body disposition you would want, which is what kind of burial you want or if you want to be cremated. There's a section for the kinds of interventions you would want, such as breathing machines, different kinds of medicine, your artificial nutrition and hydration. And then I wanted to show you there in the bottom left-hand corner is a small sample of what this document would look like. And as you can see, it gives you the options of the kind of care you would want, including spiritual. In a 2017 publication, Dr. Catherine Courtwright analyzed 150 studies from 2000 to 2015 and concluded that less than 0.5% of the U.S. population have advanced directives. That's not very many. And only 1/3 of the sick population has them, which means that a lot of terminally ill people have nothing set up for the kind of end-of-life options they may or may not want, which would mean a good death. There was also a national study in 2018 conducted by the Conversation Project, and they found that 92% of Americans say it is important to discuss their wishes for end-of-life care, but only 32% have had such a conversation. So why is that? When it comes to talking with families about their end-of-life care, there are still barriers such as lack of knowledge, cultural background. Some cultures believe that family is the center of life and that they should make these decisions. And then there's also limited time if they are critically ill with emotional responses, which is why it is always best to do it before you become ill. And last but definitely not least is denial of mortality. Now we may or may not know what we're going to have for dinner tonight, but one thing we do know is that we're going to die sooner or later. So why not take control? And if you were ever in a situation such as Karen Ann Quinlan, why not plan for a good death? In a publication, Dr. Norals and Dr. Smith say that if physicians can successfully initiate advanced care planning discussions with their patients and families, their end-of-life processes would improve, resulting in better care, less use of the hospital, less stress for both patient and family, and more honoring of newly discerning choices for, once again, a good death. If you would like more information about end-of-life care, or if you would like to start planning your end-of-life care, always start by talking to your physician about your different options and advanced directives. And also, you could visit these following sites, which have a lot of information